Hello, I'm Hannah, and this is Hannah's Books. I have been enjoying a wonderful beginning to Victober so far. I started reading Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights, the book I'm using to fulfill the challenge to reread a Victorian book. As I've mentioned before, I haven't read Wuthering Heights since I was 12 or 13 years old. Although I've read her sister Charlotte's novel, Jane Eyre, dozens of times since then, Emily has been sitting on my shelf, never getting the attention she deserved. So far, I'm really enjoying it. Although I thought I might not remember anything about it, I'm amazed at how much the imagery has stuck with me over the past 40 years. I've also cast on for my Knit and Listen project. In my next video, I'll talk more about that. My main project so far has been to dive into Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest. Before I get into a discussion of the play, I want to suggest a few ways to experience this play. First, I'll link below to the Oxford World Classics edition of the text. As is typical for the Oxfords, the edition starts with an excellent short introduction, as well as a few explanatory notes at the end. For those of you who have overly ambitious TBRs full of long novels or histories to read, you might enjoy giving your eyes a break and instead listening to the play as a BBC radio drama. I've linked below to the Audible edition of their Oscar Wilde series, but you might have luck acquiring a copy through your library's audiobook service or possibly even streaming on YouTube. This 1995 performance is wonderful, starring Judi Dench, Martin Clunes, Michael Sheen, and others. Another option is to see a recording of a stage production. Yesterday, I found a copy of the 2015 Vaudeville stage production of The Importance of Being Earnest, starring the incomparable actor David Suchet. I love Suchet and the screen adaptation of Anthony Trollope's The Way We Live Now, and I know a lot of you love him as Poirot. But what role would he play in The Importance of Being Earnest? A question you might be pondering if you are familiar with the play. He was cast as Lady Bracknell, and he is hysterical. Below, I'll link to both a YouTube recording of the full play as well as a short clip of Suchet as Bracknell. The recording of the stage production is really nice, and it sticks relatively closely to Wilde's original text, stage notes, and what I think most people assume to be his intentions. While I have no doubt it might have sparkled on stage, it's less appealing in the filmed version than is the 2002 film version with Colin Firth, Rupert Everett, Reese Witherspoon, Judi Dench, and other phenomenal actors. I especially love the way the actors in this version portray the female characters as highly intelligent and sharp and sarcastic women crafting their own stories, rather than as powerless and naive young girls. Although the text of the screen adaptation stays close to Wilde's versions, there's some creative additions shown visually. One of my favorites involves characters getting tattoos. The addition I find most successful is at the very end of the play. I urge you to check out that scene and see what you think. So, on to Wilde's play itself. I won't summarize the plot here, but I do want to talk about one theme. Although this is a very funny play, full of satire about social class and gender relationships, it also deals with the darker theme of secrecy and deceit. That secrecy is played for laughs, but it threads its way throughout the play. Ernest is not Ernest, he is John. Rather than simply telling the truth about his desires, he's created a fictional brother to allow him to escape social responsibilities. Similarly, Algernon creates Bunbury, his completely fictitious invalid of a friend, who Algy employs as an excuse to get out of his unwanted social responsibilities. The female characters also engage in duplicitous activity. Cecily, Ernest's young ward, invents an entire history that never happened and seems to expect another character to accept its truth. Her, quote, deceit is pretty tame compared to that of Miss Prism, interestingly also an author of fiction, who has somehow hidden the fact that she put the beloved draft of her novel in the baby's pram and stuck the infant in her capacious handbag, which she then checked at Victoria Station. Wilde ends his play with the moralizing sentiment that it is important to be earnest, That is, not just in name, but by word and act. But characters aren't sorry for the lies they've told, and there's no indication that any of them are actually going to become earnest in any way other than by name. That is why I really love the sneaky end of the Colin Firth Rupert Everett film. Don't miss it. The characters in Wa's play are obsessed with a world of appearances, especially the appearance of being acceptable or unacceptable. I think Oscar Wilde was writing consciously or unconsciously about the ways he himself was not earnest. That is, with this play, he was acknowledging the need to hide his sexuality in a time when homosexuality was illegal in order to be accepted as an author, but also just to love and live freely. Wilde was charged with sodomy only a few weeks after The Importance of Being Earnest opened in London. He was found guilty and imprisoned while the play was still being performed on stage. In 2017, Oscar Wilde was fully pardoned, since his conviction was for an act no longer considered a crime. Thanks for joining me today. See you next time.